Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we have our guest Ema Melanphy. Last session we were talking about energy healing and we have lots of questions. Ema, could you please start the previous question which we left? It was how meridian system and chakras are related.
Yeah, this is a really good question. Obviously, the two systems kind of come from slightly different backgrounds, but my theory is that the meridian system is much more ancient than we give it credit for. I believe, given that there are people who've been found with meridian points tattooed on their bodies, as well as herbal medicine and pouches buried in the ice in the Tyrol from thousands and thousands of years ago. And given that there was such a lot of knowledge and understanding of the meridian system in ancient China as well, I would be very surprised if there wasn't understanding and knowledge of the meridian system in India as well, which is where chakras develop. I feel like the chakra system maybe developed afterwards as a way of incorporating in energy from outside and how it relates to our physical bodies as well as to our auric field. So more kind of a development on meridian system, which is mostly in the body. I mean, it's less spiritually based. It incorporates spiritual aspects and elements, but it's primarily about the meridian system, which runs through the body, whereas the chakra system has more of a spiritual slant to it, doesn't it, really? So that's my understanding. And both of them can be used in healing together. You can make use of the chakra system alongside the meridians that start above it in the body. As I mentioned in the last episode, our last chat, Andrew's from the New Energy Work has an amazing video that you can watch, which shows a treatment. And he works with quantum shiatsu and kind of very advanced shiatsu and energy work. Yeah, he's amazing. And yeah, so he uses the chakras and also the meridians at the same time. And you can see a very kind of down to earth and descriptive and kind of, it's hard to put my finger on it, really. Very matter of fact and easy to follow, if rather mind-blowing, kind of treatment of somebody making use of the chakras and the meridians. So they do interconnect, and I do make use of both of them in my Reiki treatments. I don't tend to draw on the chakras in my shiatsu treatments, if I'm honest. There's a lot going on for both of them, but because Reiki works with all of the systems and knowledge you've got, I get information that relates to the meridian system as well as the chakra system in my treatments. So I tend to use both and flip between the two a little bit as well. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. What's your take on chakras and meridians and how they can be worked together, Tanvir? Do you use meridians at all in your work?
Honestly speaking, I have a very little knowledge about meridians, but as per my understanding, chakra, which you have told, is more kind of spiritual. There are different kind of bodies, energy bodies inside us. So when we're talking about chakras, it's more like the inner energies, which is corely connected with our spiritual bodies. But meridians is like the energy flow channels, which are flowing all over our body. And through those channels, we can reach to different kind of energy point and the chakras as well. To me, it is like chakra and meridian is a holistic type of things, where chakras is the power source and meridians is also kind of transporting those energies throughout different areas of our bodies where the energy needs to be flowed. So I have understanding like that.
So I have to say that's a really, I think you're very much not alone in looking at meridians like that as being kind of just mostly to do with the body, and because it's energy, it can help with the spiritual aspect, but it's not intrinsically spiritual. That's not actually the case though. The meridian system comes from a more kind of medical approach, but it's from a holistic medical approach. So it's not from a spiritual background, but it does incorporate spiritual aspects. And you have different meridians in traditional Chinese medicine organs, which relate to different elements and phases of qi. and their behaviors and different qualities. And it also the different spirits and souls of the body that relate to, for example, the animal soul, which is to do with survival. And then you have the other souls, which are to do with different aspects of our human existence. So it can go very deep and very spiritual without being religious. It's built into it. So you can very much have a spiritual approach to shiatsu, as well as a very kind of helping with physical ailments. And quite often people I've treated with shiatsu have been absolutely blown away by the fact that they've had really deep spiritual experiences during the treatment, that they felt their connection to their self and the universe. They've had insights into the world around them and how they interact with it. I've had people say it feels like going to church, and for them it's got that same kind of quality. So whilst on one level you can look at it in a very kind of clinical way, and that is very much what acupuncture tends to be. When you get into modalities where a person is connecting, I think that can bring in a lot of those spiritual qualities into the mix. So it's not quite as cut and dry as that but that's only because I've had experience of that. And you are very much, your approach is very much the popular kind of the most popularly held and widely held belief by most people. But yeah, it is a very spiritual thing as well, but very deeply embodied. It's just very interesting, I think. It comes back from shamanism, though, doesn't it? It comes back. Yeah. It comes from shamanism originally, and both the medicine and the spirit, kind of spiritual aspects and religion, both come from shamanism. And acupuncture was used by kind of shamans and kind of medicine people who would travel around from ancient times, and it was passed down from person to person. They would quite often, as I understand it, in some countries just have one big needle that they would use, and it would be everything. It would be spiritual and it would be physical. So yeah, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, thank you for explaining it so well. So yeah, I had a very limited knowledge about meridians, but I think, as you have explained, I need to explore more on how meridians actually works. So it's a very interesting domain, I think, to be explored.
Yes, definitely. We could maybe do in one of our future sessions a bit of a guided meditation, to connect to the different energy centers of from traditional Chinese medicine. And
right, that makes more sense right now, because it's a robust and it's itself a very big topic to explore.
Yes.
Okay, now go to our next question. It's about which energy system is most appropriate to use for healing for a particular person, and which type of healing that particular person needs to choose. Could you please explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally, when I first started my practice, I would have said it doesn't make any difference. They all do what they need to do, and the person will get a different experience from each type of treatment. Also, I would say that I would have said that, and I still would, it's that the healer has different tools in their toolkit, and they can draw on all of them in their treatment within reason. So it's more about the healer and the person receiving, and that therapeutic relationship and interaction. However, having had some experience with giving the same person different types of treatment, and having spoken to different people before treatment when they're asking me what I feel is most appropriate for them in their situation, I would say that for people who would like to explore their spirituality, Reiki is definitely a really good one to go for to begin with, especially if it's somebody who doesn't like hands-on treatment, the idea of hands-on, who is more interested in the kind of working the etheric, removing blocks, working with kind of being able to relax as well, and to be able to open up to energy and experiences that are out there. Reiki is definitely a one to go for there. I would say that for people who have physical issues and who are maybe a little bit iffy about the whole thing of Reiki and how does it work, who really would like to experience energy healing, but have a bit of a mental block around the idea of Reiki and kind of spirituality in its purest form, then I would say you should try acupuncture and or acupressure or shiatsu, depending on whether you are okay with needles or whether you like more of a kind. It's like the different degrees of it. So if you want something more clinical, more entry level, that's ratified by Western medicine, science, that can sort of understand a bit, then acupuncture is a good place to start. If you want something that is more of a healer and a person receiving the treatment that's a little bit more kind of movement and more of a holistic kind of practice, then yeah, probably shiatsu is a good way to go for you. And you would be able to receive whatever you need on whatever level from a shiatsu treatment. One person could have the same treatment as somebody else as far as that's kind of possible, because the healer is tuning into your energy and is working with what they find there, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on. But very basically, two people could have a very similar sort of treatment with similar sort of energetic patterns going on and come out of that with very, very different experience. Some people see colours as they do with Reiki. Some people go to that sort of place of half awake, half asleep as they do with Reiki. But those same people would have a very different experience if they had Reiki. So I think you've got the sliding scale, really. You've got acupuncture at one end. You've got kind of shiatsu, acupressure, and things like, as I understand, lomi is supposed to be quite similar, and certain other types of massage. And then you've got Reiki at the far end, and then other forms of Reiki, which are more kind of the spiritual and less clinical. So yes, it does depend on the individual, but there are factors to bear in mind, and it is up to the practitioner with their experience to give their opinion and their advice to the person receiving. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks, Ema, for explaining that. I have some of my own opinion. It's like, as a house healer, I use both Reiki, energy healing, and other prayer as well to heal a certain type of environment to make it more auspicious for my clients and also for our individual as well. So, as you know, we both practice Reiki, but the thing is, I try to explore different type of modality as well. So I have found that that works very well, because Reiki is one of the simplest energy healing form, which is safe for the client and also safe for the practitioner himself or herself, because it has some intelligence, which it helps by its own energy healing type of things, where practitioner doesn't need to much focus on how that energy will work.
Yes, exactly. Whereas with something that's more like dowsing or shiatsu, you need to, it's still holistic, but you've got to kind of be more active. You've got to decide and use your intuition and be working with the actual stuff that's happening and influencing it, and using your whole self in a more, using your will and your learning and your experience to do that. So it can be more demanding, I think, than with Reiki in certain ways. So with your house healing, Tanvir, do you heal the person directly, or do you heal them through the house, or is part of their energy attached to the house, and when you heal that, it heals them too? How do you look at that, and how does it work in your views?
Okay, so my approach is, when a client asks for certain kind of help, so I need to figure it out with a different approach. So is it related to that person's mental well-being, or is it related about their situation, or is it regarding about the stagnant energies inside home? So I try to use few things when clients comes. So as you know, I do Vastu. Vastu is a kind of feng shui in Indian philosophy, which So to balance the home energies. And also, at certain aspect, I am not astrologer, but definitely I take a look about the person's path chart to know that what situation or what planets is going on. Because sometimes what I have found that for certain period, it indicates that certain event or certain type of things, there is a high probability that person will face that those particular things.
Yeah.
So I also take that in consideration, the astrology aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me, my main goal or my main focus is on intuitive consultancy. So figure it out that particular person, what problem he or she is going through. If it is regarding the health issues, so I need to first figure it out whether it is involved only inside his or her health or not, or is it regarding about imbalanced energies surrounding her, or is it not only at home, but is it something else affecting her for her well-being? So so I go through a complete holistic approach, but
Yeah.
I always use Reiki and energy healing as a practitioner. Yeah,
I see. Thank you. That's really interesting. That's yeah, and I should imagine one thing feeds into another, feeds into the other. So
right.
you cannot. But these things don't happen in isolation, do they? So uh, it's working with the pattern as well as the kind of main contributing factor. I'd assume, at least in my work, that's what it would be as well. Um, yeah. Does that resonate with you as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's go to our next questions. It is about seeing colors. So when a practitioner go with healing on some patient or some clients, so sometimes practitioner himself or herself view different kind of colors, or sometimes they can feel some energies is stuck in their hands. So are those things really happens, or is just a kind of our own feelings? So could you please explain that thing?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Um, I don't think it's one or the other. I think if we're feeling it, then it's happening for us, and therefore it's having an effect on what's going on. So in terms of colours, I think again we're in the area of we perceive things and we have to engage with them, and we don't necessarily understand where they come from or what they mean. We know what they mean to us, and we get to understand what they mean in the course of the treatment and what that represents. We also have kind of societal kind of meanings that we've learned for different colours, and that includes the colours of the chakras, which were actually not originally part of the chakra system. They were brought in by the Theosophists in the late 1800s, I believe. So, yeah, we've got the societal associations that we've learned. We've got our own kind of associations, the ways a certain colour makes us feel because of who we are. And we don't have to know why it makes us feel that way. We just have to know that it makes us feel that way, and that we have certain things that we associate with it. For example, blue being cold and red being hot, yellow being bright and spring-like. Maybe yellow can also mean being mentally disturbed in some cultures. So it really depends on the person who is seeing the colours or who is feeling what they're feeling. And I would say during a Reiki treatment, if a person is receiving Reiki and they see certain colours, if they have blocks around the idea of things being too spiritual or woo-woo, and they come to me for Reiki because they want to try it and they've heard that it's really effective. If they're really not spiritually kind of aligned and don't like to look for meanings in things and symbolism, then this can be quite disturbing to them. And Reiki can be done in a non-spiritual way as well, of course. If that person asks me what that was about and looks a bit upset, then I would just put it to them that it's the brain's way of interpreting the energy, the energetic waves, because it's not normally receiving Reiki or perceiving it. So it's just the brain's way of interpreting it, a bit like a dream. It's the body's way of sorting it out, that information, or trying to figure it out. Yeah, and with otherwise, I would say it's just what that means to the person themselves. It's just tools, really. And it can be a bit of a distraction from the treatment itself, too. So it's not always a good idea to get too hung up on what colours mean or what feelings mean. It can just be a byproduct of what's happening in the treatment, and we don't necessarily need to understand it. Yeah.
Thanks for explaining that. So my view is that when I go in intense healing, so then suddenly some color flashes comes up. So I don't focus on what those color actually mean, but it happens to me.
Yes.
But I never focus on that, what that colors actually means, because then if I focus on those color, what's those interpreting at that moment, then I might be deviated from what I'm doing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it could be such a distraction, can't it?
Yeah.
It's a rabbit hole we can go down if we're not careful.
Right. So that will lead to our next question, which is aura, but it's for our next session. So in next session, we will focus on how the aura works and how we can see aura. So stay tuned with us. Till then, bye.
Right. Stay curious. Leave your comments.
Right.